The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from Ron, who lives in Richmond, Virginia. And Ron asks, Trump is pushing to ban mail-in voting and machines. Those would be vote counting machines or voting machines. Is this a policy move or a political signal? Could free and fair elections be held without these two elements? What might the ramification be if he gets his way? And that, Ron, those are excellent questions. So, Mark Scott, what do you say?
Go ahead, Mark.
Well, right now, I was actually looking up how many ballots were cast mail-in 2024, and the number is approximately 30%. So, yes, he's trying to push for this. And what does this mean? Is it a policy move or a political signal? I think it's trying to rig the game, is what it is. It is a known fact. The less the number of voters, the better chance it is for the Republican Party, because there are more Democrats than there are Republicans. So so this is an idea of taking away some of the avenues to be able to exercise that basic right of being a citizen of the United States, which is to vote and to have your vote counted. So yeah, that's kind of rigging the game in my mind. As far as getting rid of the machines, if you are very unhappy and you were sitting outside of, I think one was in Maricopa County during 2020, and one was somewhere else, somewhere in Wisconsin, I believe it was. If I can't remember, there was so much distraction going on there, where one group was saying count the votes, the other group was saying stop the count, and they were all Republicans because they don't like the way it comes. And it was midnight or around midnight at their time. If you don't like waiting for the results of an election, you buckle up, boys and girls, because if there's 100 million votes out there, it's going to take a hell of a long time to do the counting if you don't have those machines. So no whining. And if you want to cut it off at midnight, okay. But if your guy has a million votes still not counted because you want to cut it off at midnight, don't whine. This is the process that you've got. And, if you want to believe the conspiracy theories of machines changing things and, or whatever, you want to believe Putin, perfectly fine. I say to you, if you want to believe Putin, go move to Russia. I hear they need people to and do me a favor, take your guns with you, because I hear they need those too. And bring some ammunition, because I'm sure the stuff that the North Koreans are bringing to be cannon fodder isn't going to fit what you got. But anyway, back to the original thing. Ramifications, plain simple. Voting would be harder. It would be discriminatory, very discriminatory, and you would not get results in a timely manner. It could take weeks. And not because, of arguing over chads or, hanging chads or anything like that. This would take over weeks because of just the physical ability to count that many votes. And you're still going to whine about it if your guy loses. So I don't see what the point is.
Well, I mean, I think the point, let me just take a real quick look at this. Trump is pushing to ban mail-in voting and machines. Is this a policy move or a political signal? The way I look at it is this. Trump doesn't want people voting. As Mark says, the fewer people who vote, the better it is for Republicans. The more people who vote, the better it is for Democrats. This is not lost on him. In the 2020 election, I guess it was, I got in touch with a professor named Duncan Buell at the University of South Carolina, go Gamecocks, and spoke to him. He had been mentioned in a couple of articles in Salon Magazine and Slate and some others. The question there was, there were at that time two very large voting machine companies Dominion, and ES&S. And they, in South Carolina, they had gone out to buy ES&S machines. And what kind of raised the red flag for me was basically the week of the election, Lindsey Graham was on Fox News whining about the fact that he was losing. And somehow he won the election. And some people say that it was low turnout in the Black community. That's usually a culprit of Democrats losing. It certainly has been before. But Duncan Buell said, look, there's been a lot of nonsense about Dominion. There's a software design and implementation error that needs to be called out. Local devices had a different definition of what a ballot meant to be than what was in the central tabulator. Good software design would have prevented it. And he just believed that there were software glitches, but that they were, in the end, it would even out for everybody. Now, whether that happened or not, I do not know. But I do know that there are red flags flying all over the place, in red states mostly, where they're controlling voting machines. And we've seen this in Georgia, right? Someone in Colorado, I think it was, where somebody's gone to jail for
Colorado.
giving access to voting machines that they shouldn't have given access to. But Buell said that he had checked it out himself, like literally went and visited. I think he went to 20 of 152 voting precincts and found that like every fifth or sixth machine that they had brought in for that election were flawed, had these flaws in. But it shouldn't have tilted the race one way or another, because it makes the same mistake for all candidates. I would say that it's a lot easier to fix, to make sure that voting by mail, which I have done, is safe, legal, and properly done, than it is to make sure that there's not somebody slipping a thumb drive into a machine and wrecking the machine or fixing the machine. I mean, it's just the nature of software. When I have voted early, as I've done in a couple of elections here, I've called for the ballot. I've asked for the ballot. When I get the ballot, there are several envelopes plus the ballot. You take your ballot, vote the way you want to vote, put it inside a sealed envelope, sign it on the outside, put it inside another envelope, sign that one, and then mail that in or put it in a machine. The people on the other end get it out, are able to check the signature match from the outer envelope and the inner envelope. If it matches, they put the ballot in. They don't open it. And then somebody else opens it as a valid ballot and counts it. And they tabulate it by putting it into a machine and tabulating the votes. It seems to me that if the goal is, and it should be, to get as many people to vote as possible, that this is a really good way to do it. And in 2020, more people voted not on election day than on election day. And that we should look at that, I think, as a good thing, not a bad thing. But Trump likes things the old way, when it was really easy for party bosses to fix elections, where you only go on one day to vote, because anybody who's got a job and has to work might not vote. And the poorer they are, the less he's interested in their vote. People who work hard jobs may be more likely to not go down to vote that day. He likes that. Trump loves that. And so he wants to make it as hard to vote as possible. But the real goal for everybody in the country should be to make it as easy for every eligible voter to vote. And there are ways to do that that are basically foolproof. And that's what we should be doing. Not these the ES&S election machines. South Carolina spent $51 million on them or something like that. And this guy went around and found that every fifth or sixth machine was broken or somehow flawed. And that's not sustainable.
No.
But he didn't attribute the vote going one way or another because of that.
Right.
Just to be clear.
And the clerk you're talking about, Scott, is Mesa County, Colorado, and this was back in 2024 in October. Tina Peters,
right,
who was the clerk, and I actually watched her sentencing in front of the judge. They had a clip of that, and her thing was, you can't send me to jail because I need a magnetic bed and you can't provide that, and that's cruel and inhuman punishment because I hurt my back. Of course, if you watch her when she's being arrested, she looks like she's in pretty fine shape to me as far as the way she was fighting the cops taking her away. So, and Scott's right. We still vote today. The way we have our elections in the United States are based on a century and a half ago. We should be looking at, with the amount of people that we have, and we've talked about this in one of the previous podcasts. You know, back in the day, there were 59 members of the Congress. Now there are 435, and there probably should be another 200 on top of that. The total population in the United States was maybe 8 million. We're over 330 million today. So, you know, we got to change the way we do this if we want to. Everybody that says, I want a democracy, this is the first place you start. You start and make it, as Scott says, every eligible voter who wants to vote, and I'm not saying all of them do want to vote, but everyone that wants to vote has that opportunity. Instead of one day on Tuesday, where you've got to take time off, you get in long lines. The weather could be bad. Let's face it, it's November. Now, down here in South Carolina, not so big of a problem. But, hey, in the northern states, could be a problem with weather and this, that, and the other. And we've seen in the past where they've had to keep polls open, go to court, and where the judge says, yes, keep the polls open because, yeah, this is extenuating circumstances. If we did it over 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that would there's places that take a week. So, I mean, for us to do this, it's not, but we don't like change. We don't want to do it because we don't like change. But making making it easier to vote, absolutely. I know about the things Scott's talking about in South Carolina since I live here. And I do remember Lindsey Graham saying, oh, I'm losing. No, the polls. Again, polls are not you losing. That's just not the way it works. Polls are not votes. They're opinions. And until somebody casts a ballot, it's not written in stone yet. I used the machine this time around when I voted, and I found the machine fairly easy to use. Wasn't a big deal. I think the whole process took me, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes. But then again, I was able to go at, say, 11 o'clock in the morning and vote, whereas opposed to when we drove by our polling place that evening coming back from dinner, the place was packed. They were out the door because people are now done with work and they're trying to get their vote cast. I think the thing we got to remember, and again, Scott and I have both said, the fewer number of the people that vote is better for Republicans. So is this a political signal? Yes, that they want to keep it as low a number as they possibly can. They want to make it more difficult to vote so that the numbers are down so that they have a better chance. But you ever notice, even with all the shenanigans that they're pulling, with everything that they pull, everything from that side it's rigged. It's rigged. But when they win, it's not rigged. When they lose, it's rigged. So, I mean, it's just like their dear leader. It's either a hoax, a witch hunt. They're nasty people. I've never heard. They are such snowflakes when it comes to this. Bush v. Gore, when that happened back in 2000, at least Gore said, hey, you know what? Let's not put the country through this. I take it. It is what it is. That's the way it used to be. Now, was politics always nasty anyway, behind the scenes? Of course it was. But when it came down to election day, when it came down to who won, people call each other up and congratulate the winner and move on with their lives and hope they have a chance 4 years from now. But today it's become, well, if I lose, it obviously must be rigged. And I'm sorry, I can't think of a Republican that's not a snowflake. You're a snowflake. So that would be my thought under that. And the ramifications for if he gets his way, Republicans are going to like it either way. Even if he gets his way, they're not going to like it. They're just going to find something else to cry, piss, and moan about and, be a snowflake about. So hopefully we answer that.
Scott, do you have anything to add?
The only thing I would say, Brooke, is that this guy Duncan Buell was an interesting cat. I only did emails back and forth with him a little bit, but he seems like a reasonable human being. If right around November election day, it's not a big election year, this coming one, it might be interesting to talk to him and see if he would come on with us and answer some questions about what he's found, because he's looked at both the Dominion machines and the ES&S machines, and 70%, I think, of the country uses one of those two machines to do voting, and I think it would be interesting to speak to him. That's all. I've got his email. I'll send you his email. Maybe.
Yeah, please do.
I don't think it was a long time ago that I spoke to him, but I did think he was kind of interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Ron, for your questions. And certainly as the 2026 midterms come closer, I think that we'll see much more activity with attempting to control the vote and control the outcome. So we appreciate the question very much, and you're listening to us. Thank you. We appreciate all of you, our listeners. If you are not yet subscribed on the platform of your choice, please do so. So thank you again to everyone, and do stay safe, and we'll see you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening!